Hi guys, it's Sam with Spieler Custom Baits, and today we're going to be tying a football jig, my rendition of sprayed grass. We're starting off with a weedless football jig, 3/8 ounce. Cast these with the weed guard in, and then I painted the jigs with a green pumpkin, and in the final layers of epoxy I put in purple flake. We're going to start off with just a base layer of wraps on that first collar. And we're going to cut off that tag end. This jig, I use 4 different tabs of silicone. We're going to start off with this natural green pumpkin with shine, and it's going to go on the bottom of this jig. It has really good light refraction to it. Some loose ties just to get it positioned where I want it. And then I move the skirt layer just to make sure that it's all kind of aligned. And then come back and get some tie-in wraps. Making sure that those strands are where I wanted them now that they're locked in. And we're going to grab our June bug. This happens to be a June bug with a purple flash in it, or purple scaling, sorry. And we're going to tie that on the top end of the jig. Some loose wraps just to get it to stay. And once we get it about where we want it, we'll lock it in. Now we're going to grab some of this green pumpkin with candy flash, and I'm going to use 2 tabs of this, one on each side of the jig. Loose tie-ins. And then reposition where I want it. And once it's positioned, we're going to make a few wraps to lock that into place. Then we're going to grab the one for the other side and repeat that process. This jig has a really natural look to it. It does really well clear water situations. Just get a quick tie in here. Make sure all that skirt is positioned where I want it. And then start locking it in. Alright, now that we have that all tied in, we're going to go with our whip finish. With jigs like this, you can use a whip finishing tool. You have to go really slow because that'll happen. I started off with the whip finishing tool, and definitely got frustrated. And I've found it a lot easier to do the finishing knot with my fingers other than using the tool. The tool seems to get caught in the strands of the jig. But if you know how to do a whip finishing knot, it's fairly simple to finish off just using your fingers and getting your wraps in that way. Sometimes it's easier to clip them as well. And pull that nice and snug. And we're going to cut that thread off. And we're going to add a little adhesive layer to the thread just to make sure it stays in place. We're going to finish this with a wire keeper, so this isn't that necessary of a step. It's just one that I always do with all of my jigs. Now we're going to take our piece of wire. I like to use 22 gauge wire. And we're going to I like to get 4 wraps around my collar. We're going to get 4 here. And I like to start it with my fingers. 22 gauge wire is a little stout, so sometimes it becomes tough to do with your fingers alone. And so I always grab some needle nose pliers to get my wraps in. People usually have a preference on how many twists they like on theirs. I just twist mine until I feel the pressure against the collar and it starts to move those those 4 wraps. What'll end up happening is you'll see one of the wraps start to sink in as the pressure pulls it tight, and that's when you want to make sure that you've stopped, because it can cut through your skirt. And once I've had that, I like to cut mine about 3 to 4 wraps down and snip that. And then what I do is I like to bend it back up towards the collar and then grab my needle nose pliers to push that all the way up against the collar so that it doesn't catch the skirt at any point in time. And so that sits kind of flush against it. Now we're going to take our tabs and we're going to cut our skirt, starting with this back side. Then we're going to take off the safety pin. And we're going to cut this front side as well. And there we have it. We have our final product. It's my rendition of sprayed grass. This pairs well with a lot of different plastics. Anything in the sprayed grass usually goes pretty well with it. There's a lot of light refraction on it, so it gets pretty good attention. And it has a pretty natural look for in the water. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of y'all. You guys have a great day.